My name is Walter M. Bishop, Jr. I was born in 1932 and in Van Buren County, and I've been living here in McMinnville, Tennessee ever since 1950. I was drafted in 1952, and I took my basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Had a 16-week basic training, and from there I had 7 days to land route. Came home, went to Nashville, and caught a plane from Nashville. Went to Seattle, Washington, and from Seattle went over to Fort Lewis, and we processed there at Fort Lewis, and then we boarded the ship there at Seattle. And then the ship was Marine Lynx was the name of the ship. And we traveled on that ship, I think it was 17 days and nights. And then we landed in Yokohama, Japan. And they transferred us from that Yokohama out to Camp Drake. And we processed there at Camp Drake for a period of about 4 or 5 or 6 days. I don't remember exactly how long that was. I arrived at Camp Drake in January 1953. We processed there at Camp Drake for 4 or 5 days, and then they brought us back to Yokohama. We boarded the ship again. Then we went down the Sea of Japan, and then we went up the Yellow Sea, and we landed at Inchon. I don't remember exactly the dates that we landed at Inchon, but it must have been somewhere in the neighborhood of the 6th or 7th day of January. And I remember that the boat was docked way out in the water there at Inchon due to the fact that the mud slicks and things there at Inchon, that you couldn't get the big ship in that floor. So they loaded us on LSTs, and they brought us all the way into port on there. And then we processed just a little while longer there at Inchon. And then they loaded us on the train. And of course, we traveled the train up in the Chorwan area up there, which has taken us, I don't know, it seemed to me like a night and a day to do that. The train, I remember, it was kind of very unique in a way. The train was a coal burner, really. And it didn't have modern seating, I remember this. And we was more or less sitting around on the cars, kind of like on benches, I guess you would say. And then it was pretty cold going up through there at this time. I remember this. And the train was real slow and moving. Must have not been traveling over 10 or 15 miles an hour. Due to the fact that I remember, too, that there was a lot of South Koreans would come up to the train, and they'd be wanting cigarettes, and they'd be wanting candy and things of this nature. But we made the journey on up there to the 17th Infantry Headquarters. It was March 1953 when we arrived at Inchon. And they boarded us on the train, and I remember the train was going up toward the Chorwan Valley up there. It was a long ride up through there, and it was a coal burner train, I believe that it was, best of my memory. And the seating on the train, I remember it was real crowded, and the seating in the car was more or less a bench-type seating. And the train carried us all the way up to the 17th Infantry Headquarters. Whenever we arrived at the 17th Infantry Headquarters, I remember the first time that I heard sounds of war, I guess you might say. I could hear artillery way off at the distance. And being a new replacement, this kind of bothered me just a little bit, I guess. You know, I was kind of nervous and kind of scared, didn't know exactly what to expect. But as time went along there, I remember they had a meeting there at the 17th Infantry Headquarters. This must have been now in latter part of March. And they called out there, I remember, in this meeting there that they had with us, whether or not there was any vehicle mechanics in the group. Well, at that time, I did not commit myself or to fall out to sign up for this position. And but later on, as I was in the night, I began to think about this. And I thought, well, I believe I will go down and see if I can be a mechanic or not. After I had gone to sign up for a wheel vehicle mechanic, a possibility of being one, my orders was already, I was already assigned to item company, the 17th Infantry Regiment. And I knew that I was going to go online either the next day or a day or so after that. So this must have been somewhere in the middle of April. So next day or so, I remember, I don't remember exactly how long it was, they loaded us on a truck, and they carried us up toward the front line, up toward Hill 347. And from there, we unloaded off the truck, and then they put us on a PC, which is a personnel carrier, and they moved us on up about as close as you could get to the personnel carrier, and then we were told to get out of the personnel carrier and to go up the trenches up to Pork Chop Hill. So we did this, and I remember I was up there 3 or 4 days, and what was so ironic about this situation here, this first journey up there was, I know I was sitting in this bunker here, and I heard this 088 telephone ring. And I remember I believe it was the first sergeant, some officer anyway, said, I don't know, but said, I'll find out. So he came down the line in the bunker there asking if there's a Walter Bishop in the group. I said, yes, sir. I said, I am. And he said, they want you back down to the 17th Infantry headquarters to take a test to be a wheel vehicle mechanic. My arrival at the bunker was, I remember, went in out of the trench into this bunker, which ran along the ridge line of the hill, which was actually an outpost. The bunker had sandbags was something similar to railroad ties. I don't think that's what it was, but it's some type of a structure of wood in a way, and it was covered with sandbags. And along the bunker front, looking out toward what we would call no man's land, they was openings in the bunker area there. So to view to see, I guess, where the enemy were and was in all this, and it was something other that I never experienced anything like it before. But I was new there. I didn't know anyone. And, of course, the bunker, I remember, being more or less underground, it was pretty comfortable as far as that part is concerned. But actually, it was kind of a frightening thing, really, for the first day or two there. At nighttime, you could hear sporadic fire, and you could tell it was a different sound than anything that we ever had training with as far as weaponry was concerned. Of course, I had training with in the infantryman company, which consisted of M1s and light machine guns and BARs and mortars and things of this nature. But there was a sound there that I remember hearing that I'd never heard a sound quite like it. And I found out later that it was what was known as the Chinese burp gun. And it was so fast that it just made an altogether different sound. And this sound I remember, and once in a while also that they would send up a flare, and of course the flare would light up things, but as far as me really seeing any of the enemies, I did not, but I could hear them. I remember after I heard this W8 telephone ring that the sergeant or the captain, whomever it was, came and asked if it was a Walter Bishop. And I said, yes, sir. I said, I'm here. And he said, they want you back down as service company to take a test to be a mechanic. So I thought to myself, how in this world will I ever get back down there? Because I hadn't been here all this long, 3 or 4 days and nights. But I thought to myself, I'm going to take a chance because it just can't get much worse from where I'm at the present time. So I'm going to take a chance at him. So what I did was he told me how to get back off the hill. He said, you go out here and you pick this trench up. Actually, it's just about the way that I came up. Go back down. Said there'd be a personnel carrier waiting for you down at the bottom. And they would take you back over. Then there'd be a deuce and a half that would pick you up, and it would carry you back to the service company. And so this is what happened. And so whenever I got to service company, I believe it was about 35, 40 there in this group here that had made the assignment or had signed up to see if I could take a test for wheel vehicle mechanic. So I thought within myself, maybe, that I don't believe I can ever make this because I'm really not a mechanic. I might be a shade tree mechanic, but as far as a professional mechanic, I'm not. But anyway, I take this test here. As I said, there's about 35, 40 in this group here. And I believe that there were 2 of us passed this test. And my assignment off through May then, in June, I worked in a service company as a wheel vehicle mechanic. I did brake jobs, I did tune-ups, and I did whatever was needed. I didn't do the transmissions or the engines, but whatever the first and second echelon required, I did that. Of course, the month, I believe it was in the latter part of May, and maybe most of June, I did mechanic work there. And as I said, I did as was a wheel vehicle mechanic. And I remember up there on the hill, I believe it was about the 6th of July. I don't remember the exact date on this, but I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of first 3 or 4 days of July that the companies got hit pretty bad up there. And as I made the statement earlier there that a lot of the instruments, they were doing the repair work on the bunkers. And of course, it was really difficult for them to fight the battle and also to do the work on the construction of the bunkers, keep those up. So they called back down to the service company there, and I don't know why that I was selected. In fact, there's 2 of us in the company was selected. The other boy was named Hadley, I remember. He and I then, they said, you need to go, we need to send you back up on the hill, I believe the way that they referred to it. Said, you need to help them do some engineering work up there. So they temporarily transferred us up there, back up on the hill. We went back up basically the same as we did before. And there was an engineering company there, or group there. I don't remember the engineering, who they were, but anyway, we worked with them, repairing bunkers again. We got back up there on the hill and went back into the bunkers. I doubt whether or not it was the exact same location we were at up there the first time. But anyway, the artillery and the mortar and everything had pretty much torn up the bunkers again. So the engineers up there that we were working with, we were trying to help repair while the other men was trying to do their daily chores. And at night, of course, they were pulling patrols. They had that. And also, I remember in the bunkers, There, a lot of them where they had caved in, we would have to take our shovels and our tools and clean up where they had shale had come in, and maybe where the bunkers had fell in. And I remember there's, of course, there'd been several battles that went on during this time there, and I remember the stench was pretty bad there. And I remember digging with my buddy that had went up there with me. We pretty much stayed together. That we had dug up two, we believe, to be Chinese bodies. Because the Chinese, they would come in there and they'd overrun the bunker. And we'd go up, of course, the American troops then would go up the UNC, or United States Command, and we'd clean up. And the stench was real bad, and I'm not really sure if they were Chinese or not. I never did really find out. Of course, GRS came in and removed these bodies after we had located them. But I remember something real special happened there during this period of time, maybe not that day, but they said that's something that was just kind of riveted in your nose, it seemed like the stench was there. And I remember Hadley and I said, we just got to get out here for a few minutes. Of course, we had been working there and trying to repair, and we stepped out of the bunker, kind of on the ridge line. And I remember hearing this. You can hear these rounds coming in. They say once you can hear, you don't have to worry about it. But there was one or two coming in like that. And there was one round I remember that came in while we were outside of the bunker. It must have been 20 or 30 feet from us. It was a mortar round. It came in there. And by sense, I guess we heard this, or I'm not really sure, but we hit the ground. Of course, that's natural whenever you hear something like that. And I must have been in a little lower ravine than my buddy. But I was between, when that round came in and fired, I was between the round and my buddy. And my buddy got hit in the leg with a piece of shrapnel. Evidently, it must have, I've thought about this so many times, it must just came right over me in order to get to him. But that was kind of an exciting time, really. During the nighttime up there, of course, as I made mention earlier, that the bunkers and all this were lined up across the ridge line. Out in front of the ridge line, of course, what I would say on the enemy side or the no man's land down that way, they were barbed wire stretched across several different strands of wire. And also, certain areas there, they had minefields set up, and you could hear the guns. Mostly, I believe it to be mortar and light weaponry, maybe machine guns, but I know the burp guns that I made mention of, I mean, you could always tell those sounds. And you could hear sounds of grenades, and they were better known over there as potato mashers. And it was, then sometimes there would be flares that would go up and light up, but I never really ever could see the enemy. Of course, now they had, I was up there with the rifle company, and they were more or less taking care of all I guess you would say the fighting part of it. My assignment was helping the engineers doing with the construction part, but anyway, we was working in and out of the same bunkers. And it was real noisy, and it's something other that you could take with you, I guess, as long as you live, really. It's just an eerie feeling. Okay, when we were back in, I got off the hill, back in the service company was set up back where the artillery and the heavy mortars were located, and we were in that area there. And I remember one day there that there was rounds coming in there, And I guess it was heavy mortar, or either that or artillery one. I'm not really sure which one that was. But it hit our APO, it hit our mess hall, and several people got wounded there in this battle here. So what they had decided, the company said, decided they evidently, being that the round was so direct, there must be a FO or a forward observer out there somewhere. So they sent us out on patrols to look for this. And of course we went out, we was not fired upon, we never located anyone, but evidently there was someone out there because of the way that it happened. The ceasefire was July 27, I believe it was. July 27, 1953. Of course, we had heard, of course, they was having the meetings in Panmunjom John area there concerning peace talks, and they had been going on for a good while. And I believe that we had heard a day or two before, must have been 25th, 26th, that there was a good possibility that they were going to sign the truce on the 27th. But at this time, I was back with service company. I'd already come off the hill, back with service company. And I remember everyone in the company there, or in the section, was talking about it, and how that things would be whenever we didn't have to worry about going back up there, or didn't have to send supplies and things of this nature up there. So actually, you couldn't tell a whole lot different. I never heard any more rounds going off after the 27th. But I think they were just a small skirmish or two after that, but I'm not really sure. But after that, though, I don't know how long that it was. Of course, I was up there the rest of 1953 and into 54. They set up the DMZ line zone. And I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that the North Korean or the Chinese or the CCF forces moved back 2,000 meters, and I think that we had to move back 2,000 meters. And of course, they had to patrol here, but it was not near as dangerous during that time as it was some of the other times I had been involved with. And I remember after that, then I guess it must have been a good while that they talked about reconstruction, maybe some of the schools and things in South Korea, and helping do that. So I kind of got involved in some of that. After the ceasefire, I could not really tell there was any change in the section that I was with back in the service company. There was no celebration that I remember was going on, other than people was having something to say. Boy, I'm glad I don't have to go back up on the hill or something of this nature. But there really was no celebration. It was everything just about normal, with the exception of you didn't hear any firing of the artillery or the heavy mortars. And this was about the only welcome relief I could think of, really. I couldn't see a big change, really. I remember after truce was signed, there was a lot of guard duty that had to be pulled. And I remember going to get guard duty on the area where the ammo dumps and also the fuel dumps. But I remember the eerie sound at night. It'd be so dark over there, especially in the wintertime or in the nighttime, that you couldn't hardly see your hand before you. And you'd be walking guard with the M1, of course, and you could hear the drums where the fuel was stored. They would be expanding and contracting and making a real area-type sound. And I know that maybe perhaps sometimes that I don't know if any of the CC forces would come in and try to take some of the ammo or some of the fuel or something after war was over. But anyway, I think maybe more or less some of the Koreans would maybe would hinder some in that effect. But anyway, I remember the eerie sound that the drums would make, that the fuel was stored in at nighttime.